Hello, friend. This is Timothy Kimo Brian, your head instigator for Create Art Podcast, where I bring my over 30 years of experience in the arts and education world to help you tame your inner critic and create more than you consume. So this year in 2024, I am doing what's called the Making Fun a Habit series, and that's based on the book by Michael Brennan, who also runs the Creative Chats podcast, and who I had the privilege of interviewing on my other podcast, Find a Podcast About. What this book is a 30-day workbook to help you do exactly what it says, make fun a habit in your artistic practice. So, make sure that you get a copy of the book, and it is in my show notes for a link to that book. And this is really going to help us out in putting the fun back into whatever artistic project we're working on. So what I've decided to do is, since it's a 30-day workbook, I'm going to make 30 episodes out of it. And this episode marks the halfway point. That's right. Day number 15, episode number 15 in this series. So what are we talking about today? Well, we're talking about having, more problems and more projects and kind of using that negative energy in order to fuel your artistic practice. Now, for me, that can be dangerous and it can be very helpful. So I have to be very careful with this type of stuff because for me, it can get me stuck into a certain pattern, and getting stuck in a pattern is not a fun thing. So what Mike Brennan does in his book is he tells a little story at the beginning, and then he gives us questions. He also gives us action items and tips. So we're going to start with the questions that he poses to us. First question is, what do you hate and why? So there's a lot of things that I hate, but I think one of the biggest things I hate is the injustice. And if we're talking in the world, I hate seeing injustice in the world. It doesn't make any sense to me. What do I hate in my immediate world that I can have an effect on? Well, sometimes I hate, all the time I hate that I have MS and it zaps my strength. And it sometimes is difficult to get tasks done during the day. So that's what I hate about having MS. It can be a nightmare. Especially as a father of twin 10-year-olds, not having the energy to go out and play with them all the time. It really impacts me and really does a number on my psyche. So that's what I hate, and that's why I hate it. What's a problem? Question number 2 is, what's a problem that irritates you that has gone unresolved? Well, I think a problem with me is that, I guess for me, the problem that I hate that I haven't resolved is, getting out of my own way and believing that any success or any project that I do is worthy of, showing to an audience. And it's a lack of self-confidence. And I know I'm sitting here on YouTube looking at you, and you're looking at me. And yeah, I have 4 books of poetry out there. I have art all over my walls. I have this podcast that's been going on since 2006. But for me, that's not enough. And, I want things to be very successful. So that's something that's gone unresolved. It's something that I'm continually working at. So that's just one of the things that, really resonates with me. Question number 3 is, what are some of the challenges of using things you hate as a source of inspiration? So for me, the challenge is twofold. One, I get stuck. I get fixated on that negative energy, that thing that I hate. And I keep on writing about it, or I keep on doing projects that remind me of it. The second thing is, if I'm using that energy, I'm just focusing on the problem, not on the solution. So I always have to remind myself, yeah, you can be angry about this, you can be mad about this, but what are you doing to get past it? And that's something that I'm still learning how to do, get past certain things. Question number 4 is, what are some of the benefits of using something you hate as a source of inspiration? Well, hate is a very strong emotion. When you hate something, you go out of your way to avoid it, to downplay it, to get it out of your life. Yeah, and that's why it's such a strong emotion. It requires, if you hate something, it requires action on you, and it requires energy on your part. So having that energy kind of negates the MS, and it's a little bit of a vicious cycle. I know when I was first reading my poetry in public, I looked at the audience as people I wanted to fight, and I used that energy to fuel my performance. These days, I don't really do that anymore. I do talk to the audience when I'm up on the stage doing a poetry reading, and I do trade barbs with them. I could say, but it's more for fun. It's more to kind of relax the atmosphere. So that's how I use that energy. Do I like standing in front of the audience and bearing my soul? I must, because I do it week in and week out. So I like the energy that it produces. I don't like the subject matter or the fact that I focus on the issue or the problem or the thing that I hate to the detriment of focusing on other things. Let's go move into action items. First action item is write a short story or a poem about something you hate. I have done that so many times. But I think one thing that I need to do is once I write about it, be done with it. Get it all out and just be done with it. And leave it out there in the world and don't let it bother you anymore. That's a way to get rid of that, to go through those feelings and just get rid of it. Number 2, design a product or service that solves a problem that you hate. I have to think about that one, but that does sound kind of interesting. Is something that you hate? Maybe you design the next robo vacuum or something along those lines. So that's something I'm going to have to really think about. What do I hate so much that I could do a product or a service that would get rid of it? Who knows? Number 3, start a blog or podcast about the things you hate. Oh, that would be a huge podcast because there is a big list of things that I hate. So I think I have enough podcasts right now, but maybe a blog would be something, or I add a blog to one of my podcasts about things that I hate. So maybe that would be a good thing, a good newsletter type thing, or a blog post for my Find a Podcast About. So that one I can take to heart. Now, Mike's tips. He has 3 of them. First one is look for the silver lining. So he's talking in this chapter about addressing the things you hate, using that as your fuel, using it healthily as your fuel. And I think also with this tip, that thing that you hate isn't going to be there forever. And if you're working to get rid of it, you're at least doing something with that emotion, with that energy. So, envision a time when that thing won't be around, when that issue will be resolved, or that thing you hate will be resolved. Second tip is turn your hatred into humor. I love that. I love humor, and turning the thing that I hate into something humorous, that's an easy do, and that we can start working on right away. If we're laughing at something we hate, or we may realize how ridiculous it is that we hate that thing. So try some humor and try adding some humor to it and see if that doesn't work for you. And then the third tip is use your hatred as a source of energy. I've done that for many, many decades. And it's a cheap way of doing it. But you have to remember that it can't be your only source of energy. So try other things such as meditation, such as long walks in the park, or if your astrological sign allows long walks on the beach. I'm a Sagittarius, so I'm always doing long walks on the beach. But you can use that hatred as a source of energy. Just don't fixate on it. Just don't let that overtake you and become what you're known for. And be able to expand yourself. Use it for a time, but then let it go. Find that silver lining. Think about when that thing that you hate won't be around anymore, and use that. All right. Well, I definitely want to thank you for joining us here on Create Art Podcast. That's right. I said us, and that means me and our new cat, Socks. He's in the background here. You may hear him. He may decide to pop in on future podcast episodes and share his mind with you. He's a really lovable cat. So make sure you can send emails to me, Timothy at createartpodcast.com. Send questions to Socks the cat about how much he enjoys belly rubs around here. No, but seriously, folks, definitely want to thank you for joining me here today for this episode and thinking about, what fuels your creativity and maybe using things that you hate to fuel your creativity. Just want to give you a couple of announcements. First is that, as many of you know, I do have guests on the show. And how do I get those great guests? Well, I use a service called PodMatch, and it gets me matched up with fantastic guests. Now, if you want to be a guest on shows, you can use my affiliate link, sign up for PodMatch, and there's thousands of shows there that are looking for your expertise, that are looking to talk to you. So definitely check that out for yourself. Another thing I want to talk to you about is, making it easier to share my podcast. I have joined up with Podcast Beacon, and what they have is they have these little beacons that you can wear like a wristwatch or key fob. And if you have a podcast, you want to definitely check this out, because instead of, handing somebody a card or a sticker or something along those lines, you can have them just hold their phone over the wristband or the key fob, and it'll automatically bring up your podcast. So check that out. If you have a podcast, check it out. I do have the links in the show notes, and that is my affiliate link there for you. So that's what I have for you here today. Again, you can reach out to me, tell me what you like about the show, what you don't like about the show, what you'd like to hear more of, less of, or if you want to become a guest, go to Timothy at createartpodcast.com. I would love to hear from you and what's going on where you're at in your creativity, in your creative journey. I want to also let you know that I do run another podcast called Find a Podcast About. You can find it at findapodcastabout.xyz, and that's where I comb through millions of podcasts to find you the ones that are the most binge-worthy. Check that podcast out and let me help you outsmart the algorithm. And this is all part of the TKB Studios network. TKB Studios, we help you through all the noise. We lead you through all the noise in podcast production, so that way your message can cut through. Yes, TKB Studios, we are the quiet professionals. All right, that is all that I have for you here this week. Again, thank you so much for listening on in. Now go out there and tame your inner critic. Create more than you consume. Use that thing you hate as a source of energy for you, if that helps. Go out there and make some art for somebody you love, yourself. I'll talk to you next time.